edition of the Coach's Corner on Leominster TV. Alongside Leominster High School head coach Devon Gates, I am Todd Robbins, welcoming you to this edition of the Coach's Corner here on Leominster TV. Leominster, a tough 27-7 loss last week against Wachusett. Coach, this week we'll talk a little bit about Shepherd Hill and a special double. We're going to spend a little bit of time on Shrewsbury as well, as we'll take a hiatus next week for Columbus Day. So let's dive into this LHS Wachusett game, a 29-7 loss, and a team that, very much has played phenomenally from start to finish. They've allowed 2 touchdowns now through the 4 weeks, on the defensive side of the football. What are they doing defensively that's making the difference against their opponents that are keeping those scores so low?
Well, I think what we witnessed and what we had, the problem that we had was that penetration on the defensive line. Those guys, they're really fast, they move, and once they get their hands on a ball carrier, he's not going anywhere. So they're really sure tacklers. They're able to get penetration, and that for us was a real tough problem to solve.
As you worked your way through that first quarter into the second quarter as well, not only did you struggle from a standpoint of being able to get your offense on track, but you barely touched the ball because their best defense became possessing the ball seemingly endlessly through those first 2 quarters.
Yeah, they were really well coached, and I think that they had a game plan and they executed it phenomenally. They didn't feel like they needed to rush anything. They didn't panic. They just kind of kept on, spreading the ball out between their 3 backs and the quarterback, and were able to stay on the field. And it really made it tough for us to find a rhythm and get going.
I tell you to avert your eyes, but here comes the statistics through the game. 29-7, a Wachusett win, as we saw. Total yards, Wachusett dominated in just about every offensive category. Passing yards, was probably the lowest end of what didn't or did work for them for what they attempted. Rushing yards, 221 of their 253 yards came on the ground to Leominster's 83 yards on the ground. They had -3 through the air. Did Leominster 18 first downs for the Mountaineers. The teams matched with 2 turnovers. Time of possession astronomical at 34 minutes and 30 seconds to Leominster's 13 minutes and 30 seconds. Coach, it makes it awfully difficult from an offensive standpoint. If you're going to find rhythm, you've got to have more than 3 plays in a row. And I know you create your own opportunities,
sure,
in that situation, but it really does. It's hard to put it on a player if you only get to call 3 plays a series. It's really hard for individuals to even make mistakes. You just didn't have the ball long enough to do anything.
Sure, yeah, and I think that was the case with us. Having a younger quarterback in there who needed some of the reps, needed to kind of get that going. It just didn't fall in that way for us, where we were able to do that, and then it kind of put us in a spot where we're playing from behind and having to play out of our comfort zone a little bit to try to make up some possessions, make up some points. So they really got us out of our game plan, and they really stuck to theirs and executed it well, and made it a real difficult time for us to try to get clawing back into the game.
When you struggle a little bit on that side of the ball offensively, when you get to that point where you are going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and things just aren't clicking, it makes 4th down and changing field position so important. And that is a place that continues to be a struggle, where you're not able to successfully change field position. So you're giving your opponent a situation with 50 yards and in. How much more emphasis does it put on that punting game, which is not quite where you'd like to see it at this point in time? Sure,
it does. And it's something that we're really going to take a look at this week in really getting that where it needs to be. I told the players, and this loss is on me. I don't feel like I prepared us the way we need to be prepared last week. And I told them, be prepared to get ready to get back to work this week and hold themselves to a higher standard. I'm going to hold them to a higher standard, and they need to hold themselves to a higher standard. That's what Leominster football is about. And that goes for all 3 facets of the game. So the special teams too. We're gonna look at personnel first for all special teams, and really see who's going to give us the best opportunity to change field position in the kicking game as well too. When you look at your body of work in 2019, the one kind of steady, constant piece that this team has been backed by has been defense, particularly play on the defensive line and in that linebacking core. And this was the first week where perhaps that even facet of your game just didn't quite materialize the way you wanted it. Wachusett was able to do some things inside, and for the first time, really capitalize on your defense in the interior. Yeah, they really must have watched film really well and came up with a really good game plan to kind of soften us up in the interior and slow down our pressure from our front line, on our first level. And they did a good job with that, and we're able to kind of to get their fullbacks and the running backs up on the second level. And if you're able to continually get your ball carrier up to the second level, 4, 5, 6 yards at a whack, you're going to win a lot of football games. So that's what they did to us. They were able to soften us up and take care of that. And we had a real tough time adjusting. And we had some good plays, and I think we tightened down a little bit in the second half. But that first half was really a tough go for us defensively as well.
Once you move your way into the second half, the things that got better in particular were maybe players we didn't expect to see. And one of those players was Mekhi Newton, somebody who we knew was going to be in development at some point in time, but we weren't sure he was going to make a contribution on the offensive side of the ball, even though he made a contribution on the defensive side of the ball. He gets the ball. You guys had the short field there, and in 3 plays, boom, 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 he finds himself 6 points.
Yeah, Mekhi's going to be a great player. He had a great JV game last week against Neshoba, and given our situation with depth, we wanted to bring him up and to see what he can do, see if he could help us out. And he had a great week of practice, and he earned the right to be out there, and he didn't disappoint when he got out there too. So. That was a great thing about him being there and not being part of some of the other stuff that we've done so far this year with the varsity. It was a fresh look for him, and he went out there and made the most of it. And and I think a lot of the upperclassmen, they took note of it and saw it, and it got them excited as well too. So provided a spark in an otherwise pretty dismal day for our program. But it certainly ended the game on a higher note than we thought it could be at one point. And he's going to be a good player for us. So we're excited to see what he can do.
Let's see that spark from Mekhi Newton. A touchdown to cap what was seemingly a 3-play drive. One piece right after another. Tell me what you see here, Coach.
Constant back out on the field with the snap.
Sure, just running a belly play for us here, and Mekhi is able to keep his shoulders squared upfield and break some tackles and run vertical really hard.
25-yard line. Will stand next to Caden Constant, get the shotgun snap.
Just a zone play here. Mekhi sees the edge and lowers his shoulders and doesn't go out of bounds. Fights through it and stays back in bounds.
Once again across the 10-yard line.
We'll let him stay and run it to the left a little bit more, not have to cut back there. He probably would have gotten it there too.
Mekhi Newton, a little explosion of life from the Leominster offense.
But you see, he doesn't change. His feet keep on going. He just lowers his shoulder and doesn't stop his feet. He's able to make contact and run through it.
Newton again, feed the beast.
Counter right here.
He's got some room
and
to
he goes and finishes it right there for us. Great drive for him. That was all him, that drive.
Marches the Blue Devils downfield for a Leominster touchdown.
You never know. And that emphasizes something you guys have been talking about throughout the year, and that we've kind of noted on this show through a number of weeks, and that is that perseverance piece. Finding a way to persevere in what is generally a difficult day. You somehow find a way to assemble the drive, and you see somebody who comes along to make 3 plays to get you where you need to go. It tells you, emphasizes something we spoke about, which is you're not that far off from being where you want to be. The difference between being where you want to be and where you are now could be 3 plays.
Yeah, it really could be, and that's what we're learning as we go along here. And the guys need to understand that they can't look at all the hard work that they're doing and the progress that they're making, and look at the record at 1-3, and thinking that they're failing. They can't do that. They have to realize that they're making progress, that they are playing tough. They're playing really hard football teams. It really, they have had a lot of success. For the last decade, have been successful programs. If not more. So the resilience is key. Having some self-awareness of where we're at. And keep pushing forward, not taking steps back. And I think they would all agree if you ask them here now too that that we didn't bring our A game to Wachusett. We're capable of a lot better. So they're not happy with that. They're not happy with that. I could say I'm not happy with it, but if it doesn't matter to them, then it doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. So they're not happy with the performance. They got back to work today, with good spirits and determination. So the resilience, I think they're starting to get it. And I think moving forward, we're going to need it with the schedule we got coming up. So it's going to serve us well.
No doubt about that. Never being satisfied. Coach, the injuries have continued to pile up. Week in and week out, it seems like I have to add 3 or 4 more people here to have a conversation with you about. But obviously, we know J.C. Core was in street clothes last week. Miles Bowers was in street clothes. Dixon played, but maybe was limited at points. Certainly has been battling through a turf toe injury. And now we can add to the list Frank Opoku, who got rolled up on at the end of a play last week, which is always scary for linemen whenever you see bodies start rolling over the back of them because, of course, they can't see the player that's coming up from behind them. And then you had Caden Constant in there a little bit as well. We saw him leave sight. We had left the TV coverage, and we were on the radio post game, and we watched him holding his arm as he was on the way out. What can you tell us about those pieces?
Well, I can tell you that Miles Bowers and Frank Opoku will be out this week. They're dealing a little bit more of a long-term injury, where the other 3 are really just day-to-day. It should be available in some capacity. To how much we don't know yet, but they're still working through some of their stuff. But they're making progress.
What is a critical mass of injuries from a coaching standpoint? I mean, when you have a small roster to begin with, and you are trying to obviously promote JV players, gain them experience, figure out how to assemble pieces. When do you reach a point when there are so many injuries coming so fast that it makes it incredibly difficult, obviously, to look at your football team and go, all right, we're putting the best players we can instead of just stopgapping in order to fill another injured spot?
Yeah. Well, I think that's tough. I mean, you don't want to make excuses for it, but anytime you lose a quarterback, you lose some offensive linemen, you lose a guy who's with the heart of the defense, and Miles Bowers too. I mean, it takes a toll. There's no way around it. But our guys, again, we talked about the resilience. It's got to be a next man up, but we can't make excuses. The games aren't going to stop coming, so we're going to do our best to prepare the guys that are ready to play to the best of our ability as coaches, and let them go out there and have some fun and play the game. That's really what we're going to do with the guys that are there. We love the other guys back. Absolutely. Does it make a difference? Absolutely. But we have a lot of great football players in our program that are either, it's going to serve them well moving forward as they get older and have more experience. But it's, it certainly affects the progress of what you want to do, especially the first year with the offense and how you want to build things from week to week. It certainly has an impact, but again, it's not an excuse. So we have the players there to win football games, and we need to find a way to make it work
and put it together. 29-7, the loss for the Blue Devils in Week 4 of action to Wachusett. That runs their record to 1-3 through 4 weeks of the season. Let's take a look at some other scores going on around the league this week, and we talk about Leominster's upcoming opponent in Shepherd Hill, and St. John's bested that Shepherd Hill team in a track meet, 63-52, the final score on that one. Meanwhile, Doherty blanks Worcester South by a 28-0 score, maintaining their perfect record. Neshoba with the close nip over North Middlesex, 16-14. That keeps Neshoba perfect through 4 weeks of the season. Fitchburg used 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns to take out Marlborough by a 14-0 score, and Algonquin, maybe with the surprise, 17-7 victory over Shrewsbury through 4 weeks of the season. Let's take a look at Leominster's upcoming schedule as well. We'll note the change there with the Shepherd Hill game moving to a 3:30 kickoff. We'll have more information on that coming up in a couple of minutes on how that will affect the broadcast plans. But again, that game at Shepherd Hill this Friday, October the 11th, with a 3:30 kickoff. And then they move on. Leominster now begins their home section of their schedule with a pre-planned Saturday game, a homecoming affair for the Blue Devils at Doyle Field, the 7 o'clock kickoff on Saturday night, October the 19th against Shrewsbury, and then we'll be back for some more previews to talk about that. And Coach, one thing that I think really does stand out to me as I was preparing for the show, and we were talking about a little bit before we came on the air, we're going to start seeing Walker system calculations here soon, which I'll be the first person to tell you the next time I understand the Walker system will be the first time I understand it. But what we're going to start to see when we start to see those numbers come together is really the benefit of just how difficult your schedule really has been.
Sure.
Doherty, Neshoba, Wachusett are all 4-0. We were talking about it. We think Westfield has only lost the game against Leominster to this point, which means that all of your opponents through 4 weeks have lost exactly one time, and it was the time you beat Westfield.
Sure.
It says a lot about the strength of the schedule you've been up against and the opponents you've been up against through 4 weeks.
Yeah, and we play a tough schedule. Central Mass, in Mid-Watch A is it's a tough road to hoe. It's not going to get any easier for us right now. All the teams, they've all made progress since last year. They all got talented players, and it's a grind. It's the type of the offenses that we face, the physicality that that we face from week to week, that it's really is a tough schedule. And it's not that, and I knew it was tough going in, but now that I'm kind of, in the meat of it, it really does take it's a grind. It really does take a toll on the team, and to keep on battling back each week. I give the kids all the credit to come back because they're playing some physical football week in and week out right now.
And we will see how that benefits Leominster through the next phase of the schedule when it comes to points and calculations for a potential playoff appearance. Let's take a look at games we'll be keeping an eye on in Week 5. Some of them part of those day games as well, or other games that get moved to Saturday. St. John's will travel to Shrewsbury in a game that got moved to Saturday because of the threat of Triple E. Westboro travels to North Middlesex. Wachusett is at Neshoba in a battle of two 4-0 teams. That game will be contested on Saturday because of the threat of Triple E. Algonquin travels to Fitchburg in a battle of 2-2 teams, and 4-0 Doherty travels to Grafton. We'll see where the dust settles after 5 weeks of the season as Leominster turns their attention to the Shepherd Hill Rams, coach, in this Week 5 of the season. Shepherd Hill is another team that perhaps, as you guys prepare for one another, one thing that Coach Ryan Dugan said to me and you have said to me equally is that you are both teams in very similar situations, teams that very much need wins in order to continue to control your own destiny. You are both backed into a corner and need a win this week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's no way around it. With the way that our conference shapes up, with the teams that have had success so far, in order to stay ahead of the game or have a chance at all, we need to win. We need to win, and they're in the same boat too. So it should be an interesting game, and there's a lot riding on it right now to keep the season alive and keep moving in that right direction.
The 3:30 start time, as we mentioned, due to the threat of Triple E in the Dudley-Charlton region, Coach, and I think from an academic standpoint, I don't think enough attention gets paid to this. I understand the player safety standpoint that's caused some of these changes, but with schedules being open on Saturday or not open on Saturday, and some of the things that were tried to be exhausted from Leominster's end of the conversation to try to make this a better situation from an academic standpoint, how much do you concern yourself, or are you concerned with the academic toll that is going to be taken by these earlier and earlier start times that opponents are demanding?
Yeah, it's a tough situation. It's in a slippery slope because how can you say academics versus personal safeties? It's a tough argument to have, but there is an impact. And we'll have to our team will have to adjust. We do have some things during the week. We have a mandatory study hall 2 or 3 times a week where guys can make up some of that work too. But there's a lot of demands being placed on the student athlete right now too. So you couple that with getting out a little bit early, missing some classes, it puts some guys behind, and they're going to have to work extra hard to catch up. So it is a concern. It is what it is. We're making a decision for people, spectators and player safety with the threat of Triple E, but it's not without consequence on the other side too. So it's a double-edged sword, and I guess when you have the two to choose, you choose personal safety over academic well-being, I guess.
I'll say it. You choose to play on Saturday. But with that said, I think another piece of this that people don't appreciate, not just from an administrative standpoint, from a coaching staff standpoint, but just for a student standpoint, having to account for 70 kids that you've got to take out of classes from all across the building, all across grade levels. That's a lot of moving pieces to get 70 kids out of classes early, not to mention what happens with all the personnel that surrounds that.
Yeah, I mean, we could let it get chaotic and complain about it, but it's not going to serve us any well. It's going to, if anything, it'll make us a little bit more disorganized on our way down there. That's not what we want to do. We'll have a plan. The kids will get out when they're supposed to get out. We will meet and we will go. And that's how it will be. We're going to make it as much like a regular, game trip as we can, and not pay too much attention about it. We're not going to talk about it a lot, in practices. We're not going to address it at all. The more we address it, the more of a concern it becomes, and the more of it's on the minds of the players. And they don't need to think about that. They just need to get to school that day, make sure that they're, that they've eaten lunch and that they're all set in terms of their nutrition and hydration, and just be ready to go when we get on the bus.
And that will be the plan. Coach Shepherd Hill, we just mentioned, they posted 52 points in a 63-52 loss to St. John's. So which draws your interest more? The fact that they scored 52 points while losing 63-52, or the fact that their defense allowed 63 points?
Ooh, it's a tough one, Todd. I think them, as a head coach, and our defense being what it's been up to this point, and being the strength of our team, we need to stop that rushing attack first. I think if we can stop that and get some more plays, like what happened with what you said, having 6 plays in the first half isn't going to cut it for us. So we need to find a way to slow down that defense, get them to punt the ball, and we can get the ball back and try to get some points on the board. So really being able to slow down that rushing attack that they have will be key in winning the football game.
Should a track meet like that 63-52 game ensue, given where you're at with personnel, numbers, player development, do you believe you have the tools to compete in a 63-52 type game?
Absolutely. I believe in our players. I believe we have the athletes to make it happen. And I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that we had the guys to make it happen. So I have faith in what we're doing and our plan and our players, and we'll go out there and do the best that we can, provided whatever situation, whatever the game comes out to be, whatever the situation happens, we'll be prepared.
What is your key to victory, you believe, on Friday?
Like I said, being able to slow down that rushing attack. If we're letting them grind it out and convert on 3rd and short and running, or even hold the ball and convert on 4th down if they're not going to punt it, we got to be able to possess the ball a little bit and get our athletes going. So being able to stop them. And then being able to stay on the field, flip the field position, those would be two key things for us for victory.
Leominster and Shepherd Hill comes your way this Friday. Again, we mentioned that 3:30 kickoff. Here's how you can participate and be a part of this one. AM 1280, 105.3 FM, WPKZstream.com for your coverage. Countdown, a tape-delayed countdown to kickoff will begin at 3 o'clock. We'll begin live coverage right about kickoff at 3:30. Leominster TV will be with us as well. Channel 32 on Verizon, 9 on Comcast. Replays available on YouTube and Facebook Live as well. Facebook Live should go live around that kickoff, scheduled for 3:30 in the afternoon. So it's football for your afternoon ride home as well. And Coach, as we mentioned, of course, this is a little bit of a double episode here of the Coach's Corner. So we're going to flash ahead and get some initial thoughts 2 weeks out now. Shrewsbury in here, your homecoming game at Doyle Field. They're certainly not a team that's got to be pleased with where their progress is based on where they thought they'd be in the preseason through 4 weeks. So as they're breaking in a number of key players in new positions as well, what is your first thoughts, just kind of looking ahead at that Shrewsbury team in a couple weeks?
Well, I don't think you can take a look at that loss with Algonquin and think they've lost a step. We got to be prepared for the best team in Central Mass and Shrewsbury because they're right up there with WashU, so they're right up there with St. John's. They're more than formidable, and I'm excited that we have them at home and get back. I think our kids will be excited to get back home and play at Doyle on a Saturday night, given all the festivities with homecoming too. They're a talented team. They graduated a lot last year, but they still had a quarterback that came back who I think played most of the game last year against Leominster when Campanelli went out. Yep. But Clint Mills is a good quarterback. They have another skill player who's been tearing it up in terms of points. And they got a lot of guys you got to account for, and their defense is always stingy. So, I think once we get through Shepherd Hill, we'll take a look at how to attack Shrewsbury a little bit more. But we know that it's a daunting task, but we're competitors here, and we're gonna do our best to give them a fight.
When you talk about controlling what you can control, it's so important to do that. But when you talk about Shepherd Hill, Shrewsbury, St. John's, and Algonquin, given your current situation, how important is controlling your way to victories in those games from here to the end of that week 8?
Well, if we want any shot at the postseason, we got to try do the best that we can to control what we control on the football field during practice situations. It's like you said, we're in control of our own destiny. The kids know that, and they know that they can't rest. They can't take a day off. They can't take a rep off. They can't take a practice off. They can't take anything off. They need to bring it every single day in everything that we do, because those teams aren't going to have any pity or mercy on us at all. They're going to come in and I told them everybody wants to beat Leominster, no matter what our record is, just Certainly. Because of our history, our tradition. Anytime a team can get a win against Leominster, it's a big deal. So, we know the X is on our back, just for the colors that we wear. So the guys, they know they can't take anything lightly, and they certainly can't take anything off.
So it will be week 6 with Leominster and Shrewsbury at Doyle Field as well. Let's take a look. That will be a doubleheader week of broadcast for us, but Leominster will be the second game of that doubleheader in week 6. So that's Saturday, October the 19th for Leominster and Shrewsbury, back at the more traditional time schedule. So AM 1280, 105.3 FM, WPKZstream.com for your radio coverage with the traditional countdown to kickoff at 6:30 on Saturday, with live post-game on Facebook Facebook Live, hopefully to follow. And then Leominster TV with us for that one, Verizon, Comcast, YouTube for the replays, Facebook Live coverage on Saturday, October the 19th begins at 7 o'clock. I mentioned doubleheader week that week because Leominster plays on a Saturday. Means we have time to go visit our friends across the Twin City. Friday night, October the 18th, week 6 of action, Fitchburg and North Middlesex will be the featured coverage on the K-Zone, AM 1280, 105.3 FM, and WPKZstream.com. Facebook Live coverage post-game of that one, hopefully as well. Rivalry Family Media will partner with us for that one. That's at Media Rivalry on Twitter and Facebook, as well as Rivalry Family Media on YouTube with an encore play-by-play coverage of that game with full video and play-by-play available at 10 o'clock on Facebook Live on Friday night, October the 18th. So lots and lots and lots of football to come, Coach, through the next couple of weeks. Of course, we won't be here next week, but as we kind of sit back and think about where we are at, in this season, where things are going to go forward from here, as you kind of build things back in with your team, you were back out on the field, doing the installs again today. Obviously, regardless of what's happened at this point, you can't fix the first 4 weeks, but you got 4 more to go.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't look back on what's happened so far. We have to, as we get guys back from injury and we're able to, progress in what we know and how we execute. You don't want to keep on reinventing yourself every week. You want to be able to find some consistency in what you're doing, and our guys are getting used to it. So it's full steam ahead. We're not worried about anything that's happened, in the past, and we're just getting ready for Shepherd Hill.
If you get one wish between now and Friday, what's your one wish? What do you want out of your team between now and Friday?
I want them to play confident and play physical. I think we took a step back with that last week. Me taking the brunt of that just from how we practice. I don't think I prepared them. With the injuries that we had, you always, as a head coach, you want to go kind of back and forth on how intense you want to practice. And I think maybe I did a disservice. So I want to make sure that they're prepared and that they can bring it and play with some intensity, play physical, and play with confidence.
And that is what we will look for. Leominster and Shepherd Hill this Friday in Week 5. Again, a 3:30 kickoff for that one. And then Week 6 action, Leominster and Shrewsbury on Saturday night, October the 19th, with Fitchburg and North Middlesex before that on Friday, October the 18th. 1 week hiatus for the Columbus Day holiday here on Leominster TV next week. We'll be back with our next live edition of the Coach's Corner on Monday night, October the 21st at 6 o'clock right here on Leominster TV. For Kate Robbins back in the control room, Leominster High School head coach Devon Gates, I am Todd Robbins saying thank you so very much for joining us. And until that Monday night, October the 21st, we say so long, everybody.